Okay, continuing on with Module 2, Lesson 2. We're continuing on with the same thing, shading and then writing the decimal name. So this is Module 2, Lesson 2, student page E, page 3, if you're trying to find your spot in the notes. So Module 2, Lesson 2, student page E, page 3. That's a lot to say. Why couldn't they just number these pages 1 to 19? Okay, so first we're supposed to color in 42 hundredths. So that means 42 out of 100 squares. So 10, 20, 30, 42. And then it says 3 thousandths. So go over here and do 3 in the thousandths box. And then we have to count the strips. Remember, that's your tenths place. Count the separate little boxes outside the strips. That's your hundredths place. And then count the boxes or the rectangles in the thousandths. So for tenths place, and we know thousandths has 3 decimal places. For tenths place, we count the strips. The strips are tenths. So there's 4 strips. That means 4 tenths. There's 2 extra little boxes. So that means 2 is in the hundredths place. And then there's 3 rectangles in the thousandths place. So that would be 423 thousandths. So 4 strips, tenths place. 2 boxes, hundredths place. 3 rectangles, thousandths place. And let's see, we have 2, 4, 6, 8 more. So let's do a couple more together and then I'll let you guys try some. So 367 thousandths, and I just caught myself saying and again. So 367 thousandths. So that one's easy to write the number for. We can just immediately go there and then draw our picture from that. So 367 thousandths looks like this. Thousandths has 3 zeros, so 3 decimal places. So that means there should be 3 strips colored, 6 squares or boxes colored, and then 7 in the thousandths place. So sometimes it's easier to draw first, sometimes it's easier to write the number first. So starting with the strips, we have 3 strips because 3 is in the tenths place. We have 6 squares because 6 is in the hundredths place. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then we have 7 in the thousandths place. 2, 4, 6, 7. And there we have it. 367 thousandths. So 3 strips, 6 boxes, 7 is in the thousandths. So that one, it was easier to write the number first and then get your tenths, your hundredths, and your thousandths from that. Okay, so let's have you guys do the next 2. They're both similar to the last one we did. And go ahead and shut off your video, do your shading, write your decimal number, and then come back and we will check your work. So this is another one that it's easiest to first write the number. Thousandths place is 3 decimal places, so I get my 0 there and I know I'm going to have 3 decimal places. And whenever you have a number, remember the number goes at the end. So the 25 goes here, so that means it'd be 0.025 for 25 thousandths, because we can't write 250, that's 250 thousandths. So the number must go at the end of the 3 decimal places. So now I can do my coloring. 0 strips, there's no tenths place, or zeros in the tenths place. 2 is in the hundreds place, so that means 2 squares, and 5 is in the thousands place, that means 5 over here. So 0 strips, 2 boxes, because 2 is in the hundreds place, and 5 rectangles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So no strips because there's 0 in the tens place. 2 boxes because 2 is in the hundreds place, and 5 in the thousands place. Everybody do okay on that? Yeah, good. And this is another one. It's easier to write the number first. So here we have 304 thousandths. So thousandths has 3 decimal places, so we put 304 here. So this means 3 strips, 0 boxes, 4 in the thousandths. So 3 is in the tenths place, which are strips. 0 is in the hundreds place, which are boxes. 4 is in the thousands place. So 3 strips first. Zero boxes because 0 is in the hundreds place, and then 4 is in the thousands place. And there we have it. So 3 tenths, 0 hundredths, 4 thousandths. So these get easier, right, as you go, definitely. So let's do 2 more, and then you guys can do 2 more, because we got plenty here to practice on. Directions: shade the indicated quantity, then write the number in words and in expanded form. So 4 is in the tens place, so 4 strips. 2 is in the hundreds place, so 2 boxes. 8 is in the thousands place, so 8 rectangles. So turning this over, we have 4 is in the tens place, so that means 4 strips. 2 is in the hundreds place, so that means 2 boxes. 8 is in the thousands place, so 2, 4, 6, 8. And there we have it. Okay, now we're going to work on writing. So they want expanded form and they want in words. So expanded form, remember, is where we go times 1,000 or 1 over 1,000 times 1 over 10. Or in this case, because it's a decimal, we should use decimal notation. So we said 4 was in the tenths place, so that would be 4 times 1/10. Remember, tenths place only has 1 decimal place. 2 is in the hundreds place, so that would be 2 times 1/100th. And 100 has 2 zeros, so 2 decimal places. And plus 8 times 8 is in the thousands place, that should have 3 decimal places, so 0, 0, 1. So 8 times 1 1,000ths, or 1 thousandths. Okay, so tenths, hundredths, thousandths. Tenths has 1 0, 1 decimal place. Hundredths has 2 zeros, so 2 decimal places. 1,000 has 3 zeros, so 3 decimal places. In words, we would read it just like we see it, 428, and then we'd name the place value at the end, tenths, hundredths, thousandths. So 428 thousandths with a THS. So 428 is between 21 and 99, so it gets a hyphen, 20 hyphen 8, And then we name the place value, like I said, tenths, hundredths, thousandths. So we end it with thousandths. So spell the word thousand just like normal, and then add a THS like we do for decimal places. So 428 thousandths. And let's see, do we have two more of those? Yes, so let's do two, and then you guys can do two. Okay, this one's almost the same. So let's do our coloring first. So first we have 3 is in the tenths place. So that means 3 strips. Five is in the hundredths place, so that means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 boxes. 0 is in the thousandths place, so there won't be any coloring over here. And legally you can take the 0 off when it's at the end, so you could read this 35 hundredths. But since the 0's in here, I think they want us to practice with the thousandths, so we'll read it as 350. Oops, see, I said and again. 350 thousandths. So expanded form will be 3 is in the tenths place, so we do 3 times 1/10 plus 5 is in the hundredths place, so 5 times 1/100th. And then 0 is in the thousandths place, so plus 0 times 1,000th. So 1,000 has 3 decimal places, so 3 places. And in words, we would read it just like we read the number, 350, but then we have to add the word thousandths at the end. So 350 thousandths. No hyphens in this one, no number between 21 and 99 that has 2 words. So 350. Uh-oh, Kim, spell 50 right. So 350 thousandths. THS after thousand. Okay, you guys ready to try a couple on your own? Let's go ahead and go to the next page. So 2 of the same thing, so go ahead and do number 3 and number 4 where you have to shade, write expanded form, and write the word name. And then shut off your video and then come back and we'll check these. Okay, so for the coloring on this one, 0 is in the tenths place, so no strips. 0 is in the hundredths place, so no boxes. 7 is in the thousandths place, so all we have to do is color in 7 here, 2, 4, 6, 7. So expanded form, 0 is in the tenths place, so 0 times 1/10. And 0 is in the hundredths place, so 0 times 100th. 2 decimal places. And last but not least, 7 is in the thousandths place, so 7 times 1,000th. 3 decimal places. And remember, we talked about this in the last video. This could be the same thing as 0 times 1/10 if we were using fractions, plus 0 times 1/100th, plus 0, nope, 7 times 1/1000th. So same thing, this is just writing it in fractions, this is writing it in decimals, which is probably what they wanted since the original problem is in decimals. Alex is usually pretty picky about that. Whatever the original problem is in, that's how they want the answer. So they don't want you to mix units, mix decimals and fractions together. So this is probably what they want. In words, that would just be read 7 thousandths. So that's an easy one. 7, and then just put the place value, 3 decimal places means thousand with a THS. So hope you guys did okay on that one. And this one's just like one we did on the last page. So we have 5 is in the tens place, so that means we need 5 strips, 0's in the hundreds place, so no squares, and then 4 rectangles for the thousands place. So 5 strips and 4 thousandths. So 5 strips, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 0 boxes, and 4 thousandths. So expanding just like we did on the previous ones, 5 is in the tenths place, so we do 5 times 1/10. 0's in the hundreds place, so 0 times 1/100th, 2 decimal places. And 4 is in the thousandths place, so plus 4 times 1/1000th. Whoops, there I go, reverting back to fractions. Words, read the number just like you would without the decimal, 504, and then you state the place value, tenths, hundredths, thousandths. So 504 thousandths. 500. Oh my goodness. Slow down, Norris. 504. And then spell the word thousandths with a THS. And there we have it. Okay, I don't know about you guys, but I'm about ready to be done highlighting. Okay, let's see what's next. Oh goody, 2 more. And then I think we walk away from shading just for a little bit and then come back to it at the end. This is one long packet, and 2.4 is even longer. Oh dear, dear, dear. Okay, so this one has 0 strips, 8 boxes or squares, 0 thousandths. So all this is 8 squares. And you can take the 0 off and you can see why it's just 8 squares, because that would be read 8 hundredths, 8 color in 8 out of 100. So whether you leave the 0 on or take it off, it's going to be the same picture. So just 8 boxes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There we go. Nothing else. So in expanded form, 0 is in the tenths place. So 0 times a tenth. 8 is in the hundreds place, so 8 times 100th. And 0 is in the thousands place, so 0 times 1,000th. And in words, we would read that. So take off the decimal, that would be read 80. And then we add the word thousandths. So 80 thousandths. And really you could also call that 8 hundredths if you wanted to. We're working on thousandths, so that's why I'm writing it, but you could also say word name is 8 hundredths. So we know 80 thousandths and 8 hundredths are the same thing, and you can see why. 80 thousandths, take a 0 off of each. What does that give you? 8 hundredths. So you can see why they are equal. This is with the 0, this is without the 0. Neither one's simplified, but they're equal. Okay, so one last one. So we have, these are a little bit redundant, I think. So we have one strip, because one is in the tenths place. 0 squares, because 0's in the hundredths place, and then 3 rectangles in the thousandths place. So 1/10, 0 hundredths, 3 thousandths. Expanded form. It's hard to keep both of these on the same page. There we go. So 1 is in the tenths place, so that would be 1 times a tenth. 0 is in the thousandths place, so that'd be 0 times a thousandth, or excuse me, a hundredths. And then 3 times a thousandth. 3 times a thousandth. And in words, that would be 103, just like you'd read it without the decimal, and then you add the word thousandths for 3 decimal places. So 103 thousandths. And there we have it. Everybody get that? I'm sorry, sometimes I pull that away too quickly. Yes. Okay, next we're going to do ranking or ordering decimals from smallest to largest or largest to smallest, depending on what the directions ask for. So I'm not going to do the strips thing. Well, I guess we could on this first one. And then we can use the information to rank them, but I'm going to show you a much easier way on the next page. So we'll do this way on this page, and then I'll show you an easier way on the next page. So figure out how many orange strips and yellow squares you would need. So in the tenths place is 7, so we need 7 strips, and in the hundredths place, 0. Because there's no number here, so we can assume that's 0. Here in the tenths place is 2, and in the hundredths place is 7. Tenths place 3, hundredths place 8, tenths place 3, and if there's no number after it, we put 0 in the hundredths. Tenths place 8, hundredths place 0, tenths place 7, hundredths place 2. And this leads into what I'm going to show you on the next page. So anytime you're ranking decimals, you make them all have the same number of decimal places. So 70, 27, 38, 30, 80, 72. And then you treat them like whole numbers and rank them that way. So of course when you write the answer, the decimals must be in without the zeros. So I kind of like to do this just to remind myself not to put those zeros in. I can use them for ranking, but I can't put them in. So smallest to largest. So we look down this list and see 2 is the smallest. So 0.27 would be our smallest decimal. And contrary to what a lot of students think, it's not the number with the least number of places that's smallest. You make them all the same number of places, then you rank them just like their whole numbers. 27 is the smallest number in the list. And then we have 38 or 30. 30 smallest, so then we write 0.3. And you're supposed to write it the same way they give it. Alex will count it wrong, so that's why I put a slash through the 0 to remind me not to write it. Then the next smallest is 38, so 0.38, or the next largest, I should say. And then we have 7, 7, 8. So we first have to look at the 7s. So this is 70. This is 72. 70 smaller, so we write 0.7. And then 72, so 0.72. And then last but not least, the largest is 80, so we write 0.80 as it was given. So that's how you rank decimals. You make them all the same number of places, add in zeros so that they all have 2 decimal places, rank them like whole numbers. 27's the smallest, 30's the next smallest, 38's the next largest, and so on. And then be sure and write them in the same form they're given. So you wouldn't write 70 there. Even though we use 70 to help us decide where it was, we wouldn't write 70 when we go to write that. And so what can we describe in words? We can say make all decimals have the same number of place values. Decimal numbers have the same number of place value, and then rank them as whole numbers. Make all decimal numbers have the same place values, same number of place values, then rank them as if they are whole numbers. Rank them as you would whole numbers. And once I teach this in my class, it's like a light bulb goes on for students. They tell me that this was one of the things they had struggled with, was ranking decimals, because when you look at it here, it's hard to tell which one's smallest, which one's largest. But when you make them all the same number of decimal places, then you just rank them like regular numbers. So make all decimal numbers have the same number of place values, then rank them as you would whole numbers. Okay, next we have more ordering decimals. So order the numbers from least to greatest, and sometimes they do say greatest to least, so always be sure you read the directions carefully. So to order 2 or more decimals, you can compare place values from left to right. We find the largest place value where 2 numbers differ. The number with the larger digit is the larger, the number with the smaller is the smaller. Align the decimal points vertically and add zeros as placeholders, just like we did on the last page. So 3.555, 3.055. This one only has 2 place values, so we add a 0, so 3.550. This one only has 1 place value, so add 2 zeros, so 3.500. And this one only has 2 place values, so we add a 0 on the end, so 3.050. And then, like I said, I like to, I think this probably was in color at one point, and then it would have been easy to see the extra zeros, but this one's an extra 0, this one has 2 extra zeros, and this one has 1. So we got to remember when we rank them from smallest to largest, we can't include those extra zeros. So now we look and see all the 3's are the same. So that's not going to rule out any of them. Now we look at the next place value, and there's 2 with zeros. So this is 0.55, this one's 0.50. 50 is smaller than 55. Like I said, you rank them like they're whole numbers because the threes are all the same, so we can ignore the threes. So now we're ranking these: 555, 55, 550, 550. And we can see 50 is the smallest in the list. 55 is the next smallest. So this would be 3.05, and we can't include that 0, so that's the smallest because 50 is the smallest number in this list. 55 is the next smallest, so 3.055. But could you see, if you didn't have this method, how hard it would be to rank those 5 numbers? But using this method, so easy. You just look at the numbers after the decimal and rank them. 50 is the smallest, 55 is the next largest, 500 is the next largest, 550 is the next largest, 555 is the very largest. So makes it so easy, such a great trick. Okay, so we said next is 500, so that would really be 3.5. And after 500 is 550, so that'd be 3.55. And then the largest numbers in the list is 555, so it'd be 3.555. 5's the smallest, 55 is next, 500 was next, 550 next, 555 last. Do not just why the final, how you determine. So let's just say see previous page, because we already wrote about how we did this. We made them all the same number of decimal places and then ranked them as whole numbers. Okay, so let's move on to the next page, which is ranking. So how about you guys turn off your camera and do these 4. So first make them all the same number of decimal places. So the largest here is 2. So all of these would need to have 2 decimal places. So you'd write 5.23, 6.01, 5.34. And this one doesn't have any decimal places, so you'd have to make 2, 5.00. And now just take out the decimal and pretend they're whole numbers. So I guess we're going to do this first one together. So 523, 601, 534, 500. So 500 is the smallest. 523 is the next largest. 534 is the next largest, and 601 is the biggest. So you just take out the decimal place and think of them as numbers: 500, 523, 534, 601. So that would look like when we type it into Alex, 5. Whoops, I forgot to put the slashes there. That's only one we added. So that one's just 5 as the smallest. 5.23, next smallest. 5.34, not next smallest, next largest, and then the largest one of all, 6.01. Okay, so use that example and go ahead and do the next 3. So turn off your recording, do the next 3, and then come back and we'll check our answers. Okay, so it looks like 3 decimal places is the highest. So we're going to rewrite all the numbers with 3 decimal places. Already has it. This one will have to add a 0 at the end. Put a slash through it so we don't accidentally write it. This one's going to need a 0 at the end as well to make it 3 decimal places with that slash. And then the last one already has it. So now we take out the decimal places and read the numbers and rank them. 234, 230, 320, 261. So we can tell that 230 is the smallest. Sorry. So 0.23. The next smallest is 234, so 0.234. The next smallest is 261, so 0.261. And then the largest is 320, so we just write 0.32. Isn't that such a nice, easy method? I love that. Whoever invented it was genius. Makes it so easy. Okay, next one, the highest number of decimal places is 3, so I have to make them all 3. So 1.200, 1.240, 1.137, already has 3, and 1.140. So the first thing we have to do here is recognize that all the numbers in front are the same. So what that tells us is we can ignore them. Just focus on the numbers after, because all the ones are the same. So we have 200, 240, 137, 140. Well, 137 is the smallest, so that's what goes first. 140 is the next smallest. So we write 1.14. 200 is the next smallest, so we write, or next largest, so we write 1.2. And 240 is the largest, so we write 1.24. So smallest to largest. And last but not least, it looks like the highest number of decimal places here is 3. So the first two numbers already set up, 391, 0.329. This one we're going to have to add 2 zeros to make it 3 decimal places and put our slashes there so we don't accidentally write those. And this one's going to need 1 0 to make it 3 decimal places. So all the zeros are the same, 0, 0, 0, 0. So that means we only look at the numbers afterward. 391, 329, 300, 410. So we can see 300 is the smallest from the group, so I write 0.3 first. 329 is the next largest, so 0.329. 391 is the next largest, so 0.391. And then 410 is the largest, so we write 0.41. So easy stuff, right? Okay. So let me see how many. 1, 2, 3, 4 more pages. I don't like to go over 45 minutes, so we'll see if we can get that done in 45 minutes. We'll try our best. So visualizing rounding with grids. So 428 thousandths. So that means 4 strips . 2 squares, 8 thousandths. And when I'm rounding decimals, I actually like the underline method because it's like basically hard to miss. So when it says rounded to nearest tenth, I immediately go to the tenths place and underline it. And then I say to myself, does it stay 4 or become 5? Only choices. It either stays itself or goes up 1. 4 followed by a 2 stays 4. So it would just be 0.4. You don't write anything else because tenths place only has one decimal place. Then when we go to do the hundredths, same thing. I underline the hundredths place and I say to myself, does it stay 2 or become 3? If the number after it's 5 or larger, it goes up. So because this is 5 or larger, that turns into 0.43. So underline the place value, look at the number after it. If it's 4 or smaller, it stays the same. You drop all the other numbers off. Underline the place value. If the number after it is 5 or larger, it goes up 1. And then the number after it drops off. And I think we have 4 here. Do you know what? I'm going to just do the rounding on this, okay? Because I don't think we need the pictures. I think we had enough pictures. So let's just practice on the rounding, which is what this section's about. So rounded to the nearest tenth. So I underline the tenths place and I say, is this going to stay 3 or become 4? I look at the number after it. The number after it is 5 or larger, so it becomes 4. And tenths can only have one decimal place, just like hundredths can only have 2 decimal places. So next I underline the hundredths and I say, does this stay 5 or become 6? Well, the number following 5 is 4 or smaller, so it stays 5, 0.35. And hundredths will always have 2 decimal places. Okay, the next 2 are yours and you don't need to do shading. Let's just practice rounding since that's our goal here. I think we've had plenty of shading in this section. So round to the nearest tenth and nearest hundredth for both. And FYI, 0 can be an answer. Okay, because a lot of students don't know that 0 can't be the answer. So follow the method we just did on the last page. First underline the tenths, then underline the hundredths, do each one separately. And then shut off your video and come back when you have those 4 filled in, and then we'll compare answers. Okay, so underline the tenths value. So my question is, does it stay 0 or become 1? So don't let 0 trick you. It's the same rules. It either stays itself or goes up 1. So does it stay 0 or become 1? The number after it is 4 or smaller, so it stays 0. So that answer is just 0. And hundredths, same thing. Hundredths is the second 0, and I ask myself, does it stay 0 or become 1? Well, because it's followed by a 7, that says bump it up, so it becomes 1. And hundredths only has 2 decimal places, so no numbers after it. So 1/100th. And same old down here. So first the tenths place, does it stay 5 or become 6? It's followed by a 0, so it stays 5. And then underline the hundredths place and ask yourself, does it stay 0 or become 1? So it can only stay itself or go up 1. Those are the only choices. And 0, the number following it is 4 or smaller, so it stays 0. So that would be 0.50. So anything in front of it stays the same. You just decide whether the 0 stays 0 or becomes 1. Okay. And 2 more, and then we get to the last page. So I think we're going to be close here. So if you want to shut off the video and try this by yourself again, if you had a little bit of a hard time on the last page, try these again by yourself and then turn it back on and see how you did. Because just copying it doesn't really help you learn. but doing it on your own and making mistakes. You can read several quotes by Einstein that says everything he learned by making mistakes. And that's the same way with math. Okay, so 10th, does it stay 0 or become 1? Because it's followed by a number 5 or larger, it becomes 1. So we write 0.1. And then, does it stay 8 or become 9? Because 8 is followed by a 0, it stays 8, so 0.08. So everything in front of it has to be written, everything behind it gets dropped off. And that's why I do the underline, so I know to keep that one right where it's at. Because 8 followed by a 0 is 8. And one last one. Underline the tenths place. 1 followed by 0 says keep it 1, so 0.1. Underline hundredths place. 0 followed by a 3 says keep it 0, so 0.10. Tenths answers will always have 1 decimal place. Hundredths answers will always have 2 decimal places. So those are pretty fun and easy, right? Okay, let's do this last page. I love this page because it's the same number and they just have you round it a whole bunch of different places. So these are just the instructions for doing it. We've already done it, so we can just begin. So first one is tenths place. So I underline the tenths place and I say, does it stay 1 or become 2? The number after it is 4 or smaller, so it stays 1. Piece of cake. Hundredths place, does it stay 4 or become 5? The number after it's 1, so it stays 1. Or excuse me, stays 4. 3 decimal places, so sometimes they'll say thousandths place, sometimes they'll say 3 decimal places. So 1, 2, 3 decimals. So I ask myself, does it stay 1 or become 2? Only choices ever, stay or go up 1. Because it's followed by 5 or larger, that's going to become 2. 3.142. And I've had people on the test, and there's one like this on the test, that missed every one because they just wrote the 2. You can't just write what the new number becomes. Everything in front of the underline still needs to be written down. It's just the stuff after that you leave off, but everything in front needs to be written down. So just writing 2 on this, you will get it wrong every time. It's 3.142. So be careful with that. 4 decimal places, 1, 2, 3, 4. 5 followed by a 9 says make it 6. So 3.1416. And go ahead and do the next one. Nearest whole number. Whenever it's a whole number, that means it's in front of the decimal. So this is our whole number spot. So our only choice is, does it stay 3 or become 4? Same process, it's followed by a 1, so it stays 3. That is a whole number because it has no decimal places. So it's just 3. Okay, that's it for this very, very long section. So I'll see you back for lesson 3. Bye.